it's Andrea from Walks with Andrea, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about what I love about my Pilates practice, because I have been getting quite a few questions about Pilates, and I think that's for two reasons. One, Pilates is extremely popular right now, and there are Pilates studios opening up all around me. There have never been more, and they are very popular and very busy. But at the same time, there are also people, especially on social media, saying that Pilates is not enough, to even saying Pilates is a waste of time. And I don't think that is true. And I have been enjoying my Pilates practice for 20 years, with some breaks in between. But I want to talk a little bit about what I think about all of that. I will talk a little bit about what I do personally, my exercise routine, and where Pilates fits in, and how you can add it to your routine, and what else you may want to consider adding to an exercise routine. So I started my Pilates practice about 20 years ago. It was with DVDs at home, and I had accessories that came with it. I had a circle and some other accessories, and I remember really enjoying it and actually being really consistent with the DVDs. And my husband did it with me, and we really both felt it was good and beneficial for us. About 15 years ago, bar classes became extremely popular, and I joined a bar studio. So I stopped doing actually Pilates for a little while, but bar classes are still very similar to Pilates and actually borrow some of the exercises. So I think I got some of the same elements by taking the bar classes. And then about 6-7 years ago, there were more reformer Pilates studios, so I went back to taking some reformer classes, and then also continuing to do Pilates at home. So what do I love about Pilates? So the first thing I love is that it consistently works areas of our body that we are oftentimes forgetting about. And in particular, Pilates works, there's always, in reformer Pilates, there's always footwork, which is really, really beneficial. And I have had a very bad ankle injury, surgery, all that, when I was 16, which really affected me badly. And Pilates definitely helps. The footwork definitely helps a lot. The other area that Pilates, a good Pilates class, will always pay attention to is your spinal mobility. I think that's also something that we just do not pay as much attention to as we should. And the third area is the shoulder area and shoulder movement. And I actually had an episode of frozen shoulder last year that lasted a long time, and it was very frustrating and painful and debilitating. And I just took a class yesterday, and we did these really neat little shoulder mobilization exercises that were wonderful. So I'm pretty picky when it comes to Pilates instructors. I really go back to the ones that do an excellent job in working the entire body. And I think that the classes I take, they really are working on whole body mobility, and they leave me feeling like I worked out, but they also leave me feeling good and it lasts. It's not just a, transient feeling. I was traveling in the summer. I didn't do any formal workout, and when I came back, actually what I doubled and tripled down on was my Pilates classes, and they definitely helped and made me feel much better. I had felt sort of stiff in my spine and other areas. I think another area that oftentimes gets overlooked are the hips. And again, most Pilates classes, or the ones I go to, really pay attention to that area, and that is also really beneficial and good. We hold on to emotions there, and also hip problems can radiate to all sorts of other parts of the body. So, the attention to areas of our body that we don't pay attention to otherwise is really great. And and it really isn't just feet, hips, back, spine, shoulders. It's my instructors regularly pay attention to the neck and to the wrists and to really the whole body. And it's really preventative care, I feel like. It's really prehab exercises in many ways. So that's wonderful. So that's the first one, the first reason. The second reason is I really love reformer Pilates classes in a studio because it's 45 or 50 or 60 minutes of me time, of time that I get to focus only on myself, and somebody else puts it together in a way that makes sense. That's maybe sometimes a little bit surprising. I just took a class yesterday and it was really well organized, and then we were almost done, and then we did a little bit oblique work in a very unique, interesting, and creative way. And so I love these little things about classes. Now, not every instructor, not every class is great, and not every class is a great fit for you. And there are all kinds of studios. There are the bigger chain studios, and there are different ones now that are really opening up all over the place, that are nationwide. And then there are the smaller boutique studios. I have had excellent instructors in all kinds of different studios, including the really big chain studios that, sometimes people say, not so nice things about, but I would say I'd had great instructors. It really, it depends on, of course, of the philosophy of the studios, but then it really depends on the instructors and how they view their role and how seriously they take it and how invested they are. And there are some wonderful, wonderful instructors. So those are really the main reasons why I love Pilates. It takes care of all areas of my body, and many that I may miss otherwise. And it's really some me time and really contributes to my wellness. Now, a lot of people are curious about Pilates and they want to try it, and then they hear, well, it's really not worth it. It's, you're not going to build muscle. It's not going to have progressive overload. It's not going to have this and that. It's a waste of money and time and effort and energy and all those things. And I do not believe that is true. Okay. I think that there is a place in everybody's workout schedule for some Pilates. Sure, there may also be a time and a place when you would add something to your schedule. But I think that Pilates is also changing in the sense that, a lot of studios. There's actually a bunch of Pilates podcasts that talk about this a lot, about, sort of changing workouts so that they actually become more progressively, that there's more progressive overload in a way. Of course, there are limitations to that because there are only so many springs. And so, it will not replace a weightlifting workout. And it shouldn't, because there's a different purpose, in my opinion, for Pilates. But I think also Pilates could be an excellent place for you to start. So if you haven't been really working out much, or you're not really sure, I think Pilates is an excellent place to start, especially if you're finding a studio that you really like, where you like the instructors, you like the other people, you like the space, it's convenient. I think it is a great exercise, and I think it will, in all likelihood, make you feel great. I've talked to a lot of people who started Pilates and say, I feel so much better. And, aches and pains are gone. I move better. I get up better. I don't have aches and pains when I get up in the morning, right? I don't have aches and pains when I get up from a chair. Another thing Pilates really works on usually is balance work, which is so important as we get older. So, a lot of people say my balance has improved, which again is so important for fall prevention and things like that. So I think Pilates is a great way to start working out, but it's also a great addition to a workout schedule. So if you are lifting weights and you feel like, I know I should work on mobility, I know I should work a little bit on stability, on balance, on maybe some sort of stretching, Pilates is a great way to do it. So I don't think Pilates is ever a waste of time. I think at one point, if you're doing it for a while and you may want to think about, okay, well, you should probably add some weightlifting that has an element of progressive overload, which means that you are getting, you're lifting a little bit heavier, or you a little bit slower, or manipulate it to get a little bit harder every week or so. And so definitely that is something to add to your workout routine, because I believe a workout routine should have 4 elements. Number 1, you should move throughout the day, and no amount of Pilates or workouts or anything can be substituted for that. You need to get up and move around. You cannot just sit for hours on end. And I know, because I used to do that, and it's not good. It's not good for you. So the first one, moving consistently throughout the day, ideally about every 30 minutes. Number 2, you want to lift some heavy things. And heavy is relative here. Basically, the way I like to think about it, you want to get close enough to failure. Reps in reserve is what you're looking for. So how many more could you lift? And you want to, be maybe 2 to 3 away from failure. But you can lift, in my opinion, in quite a wide range. Anywhere from 5 reps to maybe 15 reps or even more. The heavier the weight is, so if you can do only 5 reps and you're close to failure, you will build more strength. But in terms of muscle hypertrophy and it being beneficial for your bones and for all kinds of things, there is really a wide range. And I do not lift super heavy. For the most part. There are a couple lifts where I do get quite close to failure or test myself, but many of my other lifts, I am in the about 8 to 12 rep range, because I feel like that is, for me, a good place to be. And so that's the second part, lift heavy things. The third thing is mobility, stability, flexibility. That's really where Pilates can come in. And this is also where balance work, for example, comes in. And this can be super, super important, especially as we're getting older. So I am not numbering them necessarily in importance. I think they're all equally important. And then the third one, you need to do some cardiovascular work. Again, there is a lot more, I think, to play with than we're sometimes told, right? So some people are like, it has to be zone 2, and some people are like, no, never do zone 2, and things like that. I think of it as you want to build a base, so you want to do something that you can do for a longer time, maybe 60 minutes or something like that. So maybe a brisk walk, maybe walking uphill on a treadmill. Maybe that puts you somewhere in zone 2, right? And then you want to also do some upper limit work, where you really test your cardiovascular system. So some sort of HIIT training maybe, and that can be very simple. It could be jumping, jump squats, it could be jumping jacks, it could be jumping on a box, it could be so many different things. But you want to really train that cardiovascular system in different ranges. There's also place, I think, for zone 1, right? And also for zone 3 and 4. It's like sometimes people act like that's going to be really, really detrimental. You want to see where you spend the majority of your time, and you want to see, what your goals are, especially if you're running or something. But there's a wide range of things you can do. And a big part of it, you should enjoy it, right? And this is something I have really realized. I love my Pilates practice. It really enriches my life. It makes me feel better in so many ways. And so if you're curious, do it. If you have been doing it and you feel guilty because you think there's something better that's more efficient, no, you're fine. Maybe you add some other things, but if you really enjoy it, do it. Have a great day and keep moving in ways that you love and enjoy. Bye now.